You step into the hottest room of the house at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and everything is already working. The AC is humming, the blinds are shut, a fan is pushing air across the room. Somewhere the electric meter is spinning hard, and still the room feels wrong. The thermostat says 72 degrees, but your skin does not believe it. The air feels stale and heavy. The couch is warm, the floor is warm. Even the wall beside the window seems to be giving off heat. So you do what most people do. You lower the thermostat. You close more curtains. You turn the fan higher. But what if some of those habits are not helping at all? What if they are quietly feeding heat back into the rooms you are trying to cool? Old Amish homes were not comfortable because they overpowered summer. They followed it. Shade, timing, airflow, and restraint did work before machines had to. So why does your house keep getting hotter even after you do the things you were taught should cool it down? The first mistake is the one that makes your air conditioner fight a space heater you did not know you owned. That hidden space heater is not plugged into the wall, it is the window. I am going to show you 5 summer habits that make a house hotter, even when they look like common sense. Not expensive upgrades, not a new system. Just small corrections in windows, timing, fans, appliances, and airflow that old homes used long before cooling came from a machine. The mistake is thinking heat only comes in as hot air. It does not. Hot air matters, but in many houses the bigger problem is heat moving through surfaces. Sunlight hits glass. Glass passes that energy into the room. The rug absorbs it, the chair absorbs it, the floor absorbs it. Then those objects slowly give it back, hour after hour. That is why a room can feel hot when the thermostat looks fine. Your skin is not only reading air temperature, it is reading the warm surfaces around you. Sit beside a sun-baked window at 72 degrees, and your body can still feel like it is near a stove. Old Amish builders understood this without technical language. They used deep porches, shade trees, shutters, summer kitchens, early morning ventilation, and evening flushing. They did not ask the house to beat the sun at 3 in the afternoon. They kept the fight from starting. Before any fix makes sense, you have to see the invisible heater pouring through the glass. On a clear summer afternoon, the glass is not just a view, it is a one-way door for energy. Sunlight reaches your window as shortwave radiation. Glass lets much of it pass through. The beam lands on the floor, the sofa, the table, or the dark rug by the door. Those surfaces absorb it. Then they change it. The light becomes heat in the room, and that heat leaves those objects as longer-wave infrared radiation. Glass does not let that escape as easily. So the energy that came in clean and fast now lingers, warming objects, air, and people. That is why closing the window may stop hot air, but it does not stop the sun. You already know this from a parked car. Leave a car in a grocery store lot with the windows up, and it can turn brutal inside even when the outside air is only warm. The seats and dashboard are not hot because the air sneaked in. They are hot because sunlight poured through glass and got trapped as heat. A house is slower than a car, but the rule is the same. Direct summer sun can deliver around 1,000 watts per square meter. A bright exposed window is not just letting in daylight, it can act like a silent space heater aimed at your living room for hours. And once you understand that, the most common window fix suddenly looks like it is sitting on the wrong side of the problem. So the first mistake is not that you forgot to close the curtains, it is that the curtains are usually on the wrong side of the glass. By the time sunlight hits a curtain inside the room, the house has already accepted the delivery. The energy crossed the window. It is indoors now. A white curtain may bounce some of it back, but much of it is caught in the fabric, the folds, and the lining. Then the curtain warms up. Stand close to a sunlit curtain in the afternoon and you can feel it, not like a furnace, more like a weak radiator that never turns off. Venetian blinds can do the same thing. If they sit inside the glass, those thin slats become little shelves collecting solar energy. They get hot, warm the air between the blind and the window, and that hot air rises into the room. You thought you were blocking the sun. You were moving the heater from the floor to the window. Old houses handled this differently because they did not wait for the sun to come inside. They fought it outdoors, where the heat could drift away. Porch roofs, deep eaves, canvas awnings, working shutters, shade trees planted where the afternoon sun came low and hard. An awning over a west window can keep the beam off the glass completely. An exterior screen can scatter sunlight before it reaches the pane. A shutter can take the heat on its outside face, where wind can carry it off instead of trapping it in the living room. You can copy the principle without rebuilding the house. If you have one brutal window that cooks a room every afternoon, put the reflector outside if you can. A cheap emergency mylar blanket, pulled flat and taped over the outside of the glass, shiny side facing out, can bounce a surprising amount of sunlight away. Reflective window film can do the same job more neatly. Exterior shade cloth, bamboo blinds, or a removable screen can help too. The key is flat, bright, and outside the heat path. If you cannot place it outdoors, put the reflective surface as tight to the glass as possible, with the shiny side facing out in summer. Leave big air gaps and dark fabric behind it, and you are back to heating the room. The old lesson is simple. Do not decorate the sunlight after it enters. Reject it at the door, but even a perfectly shaded house can still overheat if you open it at the exact wrong hour. The next mistake starts around 3 in the afternoon. The room feels stale, the air is heavy. So you do what seems natural. You open a window. For a few seconds it feels like relief because the air moves. A draft crosses your face, and the room seems less trapped. But if the outdoor air is hotter than the indoor air, you have not cooled the house. You have invited the heat in. Many people get summer ventilation backward. They keep the house closed at night when the air outside is finally cool, then open it during the day when the yard, driveway, porch steps, siding, and roof are giving off heat. That afternoon breeze is not free cooling. It is delivery. Hot air moves through the window. It washes over the floors. It touches the plaster. It settles into the couch, bookshelves, table, and bed frame. A house is not just air, it is mass. Wood, brick, tile, furniture, walls, all of it can store heat. Then evening comes, and people close the windows because it feels late, damp, or buggy. But the heat that entered is already inside the materials. The walls give it back slowly. The bedroom stays warm long after the sun is gone. Old farmhouses worked by a different rhythm. They treated windows like valves. At sundown, when outdoor air dropped below indoor air, the house opened. Not one cracked window. Opposite windows, a clear path, a low opening on the cool side, a high opening on the warm side if possible. Cross flow. If there was an upstairs window, stairwell, cupola, or exhaust fan, it helped pull warm air up and out. Cool night air entered low, moved through the rooms, and carried heat away from the surfaces that had been holding it all day. Not for 10 minutes, for hours. You are not just changing the air, you are cooling the bones of the house. By morning, the plaster, floorboards, and furniture have given up some stored heat. The whole house starts the day cooler, but only if you finish the rhythm. At first light, before the sun begins reheating the glass and siding, every window closes. Shades come down, blinds shut, curtains pull tight. The house becomes a shaded box holding the cool it collected overnight. Open when the heat wants out, close when the heat wants in. The next habit is even more misunderstood, because the tool feels cold on your skin while secretly doing nothing for the room. A fan is one of the most convincing lies in a hot house. You flip the switch, the blades blur, air hits your neck, shirt, and face. Suddenly the room feels better. So you leave it running, in the bedroom, in the kitchen, in the empty hallway. But a fan does not cool a room. It cools skin. Moving air carries heat away from your body and helps sweat evaporate faster. Your nerves feel that change, and your brain says, relief. But the thermometer in the room has not been fooled. If nobody is sitting there, the fan is doing the opposite of what you think. The motor uses electricity, and that electricity becomes a small amount of heat. Not much, but a fan running in an empty room is not cooling the house. It is wasting power and adding heat. Old houses used moving air with more discipline. The point was not to stir hot air in circles. The point was to move heat out. That is why a box fan in the right window can be useful at night. Put it in an upstairs window facing outward, when the outdoor air is cooler than the indoor air. Let it exhaust hot air collected near the ceiling. Then open a lower window on the cooler side of the house, just enough to feed the flow. Now the fan is not pretending to be an air conditioner. It is acting like a pump. Warm air leaves, cooler air enters. The stairwell becomes a chimney. Bedrooms give up their heat faster. During the day, a fan may still help while you sit in its path. That is valuable. Use it beside the desk, near the bed, or on the porch chair. Cool the person, not the empty room. Then there is the frozen bottle trick. A few jugs of ice behind a fan can make a small pocket of cooler air for one chair for a short time. But if those bottles were frozen in a freezer inside the same house, the freezer dumped heat into the kitchen while making them. Building wide, you are close to even. Comfort is not magic. It is heat being moved from one place to another. And that same honesty matters even more with the biggest heat sources in your house, because they do not look like heaters at all. The biggest heaters in your house do not glow red. They have doors, buttons, timers, and little polite beeps. An oven is the plainest one. When you bake at 400 degrees on a July afternoon, you have put a multi-thousand-watt heating element inside your living space. Some heat cooks the food. The rest leaks into the kitchen, warms the cabinets, warms the air, and keeps radiating after the meal is done. Then the air conditioner has to fight it. The stovetop does it too. So does the toaster oven. So does every hot pan sitting on the counter like a little iron radiator. The dryer may be sneakier. A dryer heats air, throws that hot damp air outside, and in many houses the lost air has to be replaced. So the house pulls outdoor air through cracks around doors, attic hatches, sill plates, and old windows. On a hot afternoon, that replacement air is not a gift. It is the weather leaking in. The dishwasher has its own version. The wash is hot. The drying cycle is hotter. Heated dry means you are paying to warm plates, steam the kitchen, and add another heat load when the house is already tired. Hot showers count too. Steam spreads into walls, towels, mirrors, and hallway air. If the exhaust fan is off, heat and moisture stay inside and make the room feel heavier. Even small things add up. Incandescent bulbs are little heaters that happen to make light. Computers and televisions shed heat while they run. A refrigerator removes heat from inside the box and dumps it out the back or underneath, straight into the kitchen. Useful machine. Still a heat source. The old fix was not complicated. It was timing. Bake at dawn when the house is coolest, or after dark when the worst of the day has passed. Line dry clothes outside instead of running a dryer during peak heat. Skip the heated dishwasher dry and crack the door open. Shower with the exhaust fan running and leave it on long enough to clear the steam. During the hottest hours, eat cold. Bread, cheese, fruit, leftovers, garden tomatoes, anything that does not ask the kitchen to become a furnace. And if you have a basement, use it like people used to. Move the afternoon work, folding, desk time, or children's play down where the earth has already paid for the cooling. Sometimes comfort is about refusing to light hidden fires in the middle of the day. But even if you block the sun and stop making heat indoors, one last mistake can leave that heat trapped above your head like a lid on a pot. By late afternoon, the hottest room in the house may be the one nobody is standing in, the attic. On a clear summer day, the roof bakes under direct sun for hours. Shingles get hot, rafters get hot, the air under them gets hotter. In many houses, attic air can climb well above 130 degrees on a brutal afternoon. Then the ceiling becomes a slow griddle over your rooms. You may have closed the curtains, you may have avoided the oven, you may have kept the doors shut, but if the house is sealed tight, the heat has nowhere to go. Warm air rises. In winter, that rising air helps old houses leak heat through upper cracks and pull cold air in below. In summer, the same force works against you if the top of the house is closed. Heat rises into upstairs rooms, ceiling cavities, stairwells, and attic spaces. Then it sits there. A sealed summer house can act like a closed chimney with the fire still smoldering inside. The lower rooms feel stuffy, while the worst heat stacks above you and presses down through plaster, drywall, and insulation long after the sun drops. The old fix was not to open every window at noon. That just invites the hot day inside. The fix was patience. After sundown, when outdoor air falls below indoor air, open a low window on the shaded side of the house. Then open a higher window on the opposite side, or a safe attic vent if your home has one and it is meant to be used that way. Low in, high out. Cooler air enters near the floor. Hot air escapes near the top. The house begins to breathe like a chimney in reverse, not by magic, but by pressure and temperature. Even a gentle pull can flush heat that has been hiding above the ceiling. But one dangerous piece of old folk advice needs to stay buried. Do not use a stove flame, lantern, or any indoor fire to force airflow. Combustion inside a house makes gases, moisture, and in the wrong conditions, carbon monoxide. That is not ventilation. That is a hazard wearing an old-fashioned hat. There was another old method, and this one can work in the right place. A damp cotton sheet hung across incoming airflow. As the night breeze passes through the wet cloth, some water evaporates. Evaporation steals heat from the air. The air coming through feels cooler, the way your skin feels cooler when sweat dries. In dry country, this can be powerful. In humid country, it struggles. If the air is already loaded with moisture, it cannot take much more from the sheet, so the cooling effect shrinks. Then you may only be adding dampness, and damp air can feel heavier. The old logic was observation. Open the house when outside air can help. Vent high so trapped heat can leave. Bring cool air low. Add moisture only when the air is dry enough to accept it. Once all 5 mistakes are visible, the bigger question is why almost nobody is taught these simple things anymore. That is the turn. The old methods did not fail. They stopped being handed down. For most of human history, summer comfort was not a machine setting. It was a household rhythm. Curtains moved with the sun. Windows opened by temperature, not habit. Cooking shifted to cooler hours. Shade was treated like part of the house, not decoration. Then comfort became something with a switch. That switch changed expectations. If a room felt hot, the answer became more cooling. A bigger unit, a lower setting, a longer runtime. There is nothing wrong with air conditioning. In dangerous heat, it saves lives. But it also taught people to think of the house as a box to overpower, instead of a living shell to manage. And there is not much money in teaching someone to set a phone alarm at sundown, plant shade on the west side, or close the right curtains before lunch. So the knowledge slipped. Not because it was quaint, because it was quiet. The old Amish way was not nostalgia, it was practical memory. Prevent heat, redirect heat, time the house, release what got trapped. So the answer to the opening question is not one magic trick, but a daily rhythm you can begin tonight. So tonight, make the house breathe on purpose. At sundown, open opposite windows and let cooler air cross the rooms. At first light, close them, pull the shades, and trap that coolness before the sun gets inside. That is why the house stayed hot. Sunlight was being absorbed indoors. Windows were open at the wrong hours. Fans were running in empty rooms. Appliances were adding heat in the afternoon. And warm air was getting trapped near the ceiling. Tomorrow, find your hottest windows. Add reflective film where the sun hits hardest. Move cooking, laundry, and dishwashing out of peak heat. Turn off fans when no one is there. Try a wet sheet only if your air is dry enough. Comment with your state or climate, and which old cooling method you will test first. Thank you for watching.